tracking tools to find that all-important name that they're searching for. And when the public comes later, they can go online and find out where these names are as well. But a number of the family members were already at that date wanting to be among the first to stream in as they are. And a lot of thought, as we said earlier, went into where to place the names, how to place the names, with colleagues, with friends, with family members, and just trying to honor the family's wishes as best they can.
Again, just to describe to you these acre waterfalls. They are the largest man-made waterfalls anywhere in the world. 26,000 gallons of recycled water head over every single minute. And when you are there, you can see patterns in the water, evanescent patterns in the water that seem to suggest memory. It drops 30 feet, and then in the center another 20 feet. And the 20 feet reflecting absence of the architect there.
Because it has been so quiet, you can truly...
Okay, now we're going to watch a movie from this website called Brain Pop. You may do it in your school, probably not. But anyway, here you go. Okay.
This movie explores a sensitive subject. Please watch this movie with an adult and take time to discuss it. I think this is it. Dear Tim and Moby, I know that the Twin Towers fell on 9/11, but why would someone do that? From Tiffany. This is a tough one. Maybe we should go over what happened first. The morning of September 11, 2001 started off as your average Tuesday. People went to work, kids went to school, and pretty much everyone went about their business as usual. At 8:46 a.m., though, everything changed. At that moment, an airplane full of passengers flew into one of the Twin Towers. Those were the two tallest structures of the World Trade Center in downtown New York City. All of the people in the plane were killed, and so were many of the people in the building. I know. Then, about 20 minutes later, a second plane flew into the other tower. It was then that people started to realize this was no accident. It was an attack. It was clear that the planes had been hijacked or forcefully taken over. Shortly after that, there was another plane crash, but this time it was at the Pentagon, right outside Washington, D.C. The Pentagon is the headquarters of the U.S. Department of Defense. Next, the unthinkable happened. Back in New York, the South Tower of the World Trade Center collapsed. It was a devastating blow. Debris flew everywhere, and all of downtown Manhattan was covered in a cloud of dust and smoke. Fortunately, most people were able to get out of the tower before it fell. But many others, including firefighters and police officers who had gone in to help, were trapped and killed. Well, the building had actually been designed to handle small crashes, but nothing like this. The fuel from the airplane ignited an enormous fire that destroyed the skyscraper's internal structure. It was the same problem at the North Tower, and at 10:28 a.m., it too collapsed. Hundreds of people lost their lives in an instant. Around the time of the South Tower's collapse, another plane crashed in an empty field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. This fourth hijacked plane was most likely intended to hit another building, but evidence suggests that passengers took the plane over from the hijackers, causing it to crash. There were no survivors. Yeah, all told, almost 3,000 civilians lost their lives that day. It was the worst attack on U.S. soil since the bombing of Pearl Harbor in Hawaii in 1941. Right, so let's talk a little bit about why all this happened. The hijacking of planes like this is a form of terrorism. You should see our terrorism movie to learn more, but the main idea is that terrorism is an act of violence designed to spread fear in others and to attract attention to a political cause. We now know that the September 11th attacks were carried out by 19 members of a terrorist network called Al-Qaeda. The main goal of Al-Qaeda is to make countries that are predominantly Islamic get rid of all non-Islamic influences. Oh, Islam is one of the most popular religions in the world. It's practiced by around 1.5 billion people, known as Muslims, in countries all over the globe. The vast majority of Muslims are nonviolent, and they do not agree with Al-Qaeda or its actions. In fact, the Quran, the holy book of Islam, calls for Muslims to be peaceful, not to kill. However, Al-Qaeda wants to rid the Islamic world of Western ideas, especially of anything from the United States. They also want Muslim countries to be governed by fundamentalist rule. Fundamentalism is a radical form of any religion that holds to a very strict interpretation of the religion's rules. It usually gives power to some and denies basic civil liberties to everyone else. Unfortunately, Al-Qaeda followers have proven that they're willing to do anything, including commit suicide and kill innocent people to get their message heard and their goals met. Good question. You might have heard that a man named Osama bin Laden was responsible for the events on 9/11. Osama bin Laden was the head of the Al-Qaeda network. He didn't personally take part in the attacks, but as Al-Qaeda's leader, bin Laden helped plan and carry the whole thing out. Well, the United States responded to 9/11 by invading Afghanistan, a country that was harboring Al-Qaeda members. Much of Al-Qaeda's organization was destroyed, and certain key leaders were killed. After nearly a decade in hiding, Osama bin Laden was eventually found and killed by the U.S. government, but the Al-Qaeda network is still very much alive. Back home, it's been hard to rebuild. Many lives were shattered in the aftermath of the September 11th attacks. But families, friends, and complete strangers pulled together to help out relatives and friends of the victims, both on the day of the attacks and in the weeks and months that followed. Within a year, all physical damage to the Pentagon was repaired. It's been a much tougher rebuilding process here in New York, but things are looking up. I couldn't agree more.
Okay, that was that brain pop video. I'm gonna put some pictures up that probably will be disturbing, but I don't know. We go on Google. But it was kind of sad because seeing all those people die may be disturbing. These are all the pictures I can show you, but right now, this is the end of the video, the tribute video. I want to say sorry for your lost family, like, if you had victims in 9/11. You know what? I'm going to show you a video. I saw it was two videos. One was a cartoon, it was a biography, and I wanted to show you it.
There was a couple of days each year you were allowed to take your children to work. Joe loved it. That was his birthday present. Then he would spend the night in the firehouse. We'd have a cake, and the guys I work with, they would take a milk container, and they'd cut out the facsimile of a building, and they'd put it on the top of the cake, and then they would light it up. And they would tell Joe to put it out, and he would throw a pot of water on it, the birthday cake was a little soggy, but this is what he wanted. Joe started dating a young lady whose father was a police officer, and he come home one day and he says, I'm taking a police test. I says, Joe, you're only 17 years old. He says, no big deal. On the other side of the room, my son, John, wanted to be the next Donald Trump. He was going to make $1 million and take care of his mother and father. But in 1984, I came down with throat cancer. He noticed then how my unit took care of us, and he says, I'm going to become a fireman. I says, you're kidding me. Firemen don't make millions of dollars. How am I going to live like a king? But I was very happy, very proud. My father had been on the fire department, and he was the first one to be issued badge number 3436, and they reissued it to my son John. So the badge was only used by 2. Both the boys would call me when they were working. John would always call around 3:30, 4 o'clock, and that particular night, September 10th, we spoke for a few minutes, and I says, I love you. And he says, I love you. Joe called me in the morning and told me to turn on the television that a plane just hit the Trade Center. He says, I'm heading south on West Street. This is a big one. And I just said, be careful. I love you. I love you too. That was it. We had the boys for John for 36 years, Joe for 34 years. Ironically, badge number 3436. I don't have any could've, should've, or would've. I wouldn't have changed anything. There's not many people that the last words they said to their son or daughter was, I love you. And the last words they heard was, I love you. So that makes me sleep at night.
Okay, that's what I'm going to do right now, but I'm just sad that this is happening. And I'm trying to do Go Animate videos too, but just Go Animate, not 9/11 remembering, but I'm going to be doing Go Animate videos probably from now on. I just need to figure out how to upload the videos to YouTube without a Go Animate account. So, we'll see you later. Bye.